The late afternoon sun slid low across the wide Wyoming sky, turning the river into a ribbon of molten gold, and rancher Cade Larimore reined in his horse when he spotted something small and unmoving beneath the drooping arms of an old willow. At first he thought it was just driftwood caught in roots, until a gust of wind lifted a scrap of faded fabric and revealed the child's bare feet. Cade felt a cold twist beneath his ribs, the kind that warned a man he was about to step into trouble bigger than he bargained for. He approached slow, boots sinking into the soft bank, every instinct on alert. The girl couldn't have been older than 7, maybe 8, skinny as a fence post, clutching a cloth doll against her chest, like it held her whole world together. Her eyes were wide open, dark as midnight wells, watching him with a calmness no child should ever have learned. "You hurt?" Cade asked, voice gentle as he could manage. The girl shook her head once. No words, no blink, just that doll hugged tight. He noticed the smudges of dirt on her face, the torn hem of her dress, the way her hands trembled even when the rest of her stayed still. He knelt beside her, feeling the river breeze cooling the sweat on his neck. "Name's Cade. I got a ranch up yonder. You alone out here?" he asked. She swallowed but didn't answer. Instead, she lifted the doll slightly, as though introducing it, or maybe hiding behind it. Either way, Cade felt something old and fierce stir in him, a protective instinct he hadn't felt since losing his baby sister decades ago. He studied the doll, noticing something strange. Its small stitched mouth wasn't sewn smooth like most. Instead, it was pulled slightly crooked, as if it had been opened and closed again, and the fabric around its belly bulged unevenly, like something hidden inside. Cade had handled enough trouble in his life to recognize trouble when it was sewn shut in a child's toy. "You got family nearby?" he asked softly. The girl tightened her grip on the doll and whispered one fragile word. "No." Cade didn't push her further, but the way she pressed her face into the doll told him she had run from something, or someone, and too fast to pack anything but the only thing she couldn't bear to leave behind. A distant echo of hooves drifted across the prairie, faint but real. Cade's head snapped up. Horses were coming from the south trail, too many for a friendly visit, and moving faster than travelers with nothing on their minds. The girl heard them too and stiffened, fear sliding across her face, sharp and sudden like lightning splitting the sky. Cade didn't waste another heartbeat. He scooped her up, placing her gently in front of him on the saddle. The girl clutched the doll so tight it seemed strained. "You're safe with me," Cade murmured, urging his horse toward home, though he wasn't entirely sure it was true. As they rode, the girl leaned back against him, small and shaking. He kept one arm around her, while the other held the reins steady. The wind cut cold through the cottonwoods lining the river, carrying that same echo of hooves growing closer. Cade cursed under his breath, knowing danger was on their trail, danger that wanted something badly enough to chase it across open country. They crested the rise toward the Larimore ranch, just as the sun dipped behind the mountains, shadows stretching long and thin like fingers reaching for them. Cade felt the girl's breath hitch against his shirt. He looked down and saw her eyes shining with something more than fear, something heavy, something secret, and he realized the danger wasn't behind them anymore. It was already in his arms, wrapped inside a child and the doll she refused to let go. Night settled over the Larimore ranch with a heaviness that felt almost deliberate, as if the darkness itself knew it needed to hide Cade and the girl before whatever hunted them reached the valley. Cade swung down from his horse and carried her inside the cabin, her small fingers still locked around that worn doll like it was the only solid thing in her world. He set her gently on the edge of the bed and lit the oil lamp. Warm amber light, chasing shadows from the corners. She sat stiffly, eyes darting toward the door every few seconds. Cade poured her a cup of warm milk and she took it with both hands, breathing the steam like she hadn't tasted comfort in weeks. "You ain't telling me your name yet," Cade said softly. Leaning against the table, the girl hesitated, then whispered, "Lena." The name trembled from her lips like she wasn't sure she was allowed to use it anymore. Cade nodded slow, letting it settle between them. He knelt in front of her, eye level. "Lena, I ain't here to harm you. I'm just trying to make sure nobody else does either," he said. She looked at him, really looked, as though measuring whether the weight of her secret could rest on him without breaking him. Her fingers stroked the doll's patched face, a motion to practiced, to protective. Cade noticed again the odd bulge in the doll's middle, the uneven stitching, the way Lena shielded it. Whenever she felt threatened, a sudden sound cracked through the quiet. A horse whinnying sharply from somewhere beyond the barn. Cade froze, every muscle ready to spring. "Lena, get under the bed, now," he whispered. She didn't argue, didn't ask, just slid down and tucked herself beneath the frame with the doll pressed to her chest. Cade grabbed his rifle from above the mantel and snuffed out the lamp. The cabin falling into thick darkness, broken only by the red flicker of the dying fire, he eased to the window. Watching the far end of his property, moonlight spilled cold across the pasture, outlining 3 riders approaching slow, too slow, men who wanted to be seen, wanted to stir fear before they reached the door. Cade recognized the front rider. He'd seen that slanted posture and mean confidence before. Rider Kincaid, a bounty hunter whose morals shifted like sand in wind. And if Kincaid was involved, the matter was no simple missing child. Cade stepped onto the porch, rifle slung easy but ready. Kincaid reined in 10 yards away, his voice smooth as whiskey and twice as dangerous. "Even in here, tell you might have come across something that ain't yours." Cade didn't blink, didn't shift his boots an inch. "I find strays from time to time, but nothing that belongs to you," he said. Kincaid smiled, a thin serpent's smile that didn't reach his eyes. "A little girl wandered off from town," Kincaid said, pretending casual but failing. "Her daddy's real worried, wants her home. Says she might have taken something important." Cade kept his features flat, but inside he felt a punch of understanding. So that was the hook. That was why men were riding hard across country for a child. Not for her safety, but for something she carried with her. Something worth chasing into the night. "I ain't seen no girl," Cade lied, voice steady as stone. Kincaid's eyes narrowed, reading the lie with sick pleasure. "Funny thing, Cade, tracks say otherwise. Small prints near the river, small enough for a child. Then your horse's tracks joining up soon after." Cade leveled his rifle just enough to make the message clear. "You're trespassing on my land, Kincaid," he said, each word sharp with intent. Kincaid lifted his hands, amused. "Easy now. We'll come back with daylight if we need to." The riders turned slowly, spurring their horses toward the ridge, but Kincaid's voice carried back on the cold wind. "She ain't safe with you, Larrymore. Men who lost what she's carrying will do worse than knock on your door." Cade watched them disappear into darkness. Heart hammering, he stepped back inside and bolted the door. Lena crawled from beneath the bed and threw her arms around him, small body shaking with silent sobs. Cade held her close until her trembling eased. Then he pulled back gently. "Lena, whatever's hidden in that doll, you need to tell me," he said softly. Lena stared at the doll, fingers trembling. "Over its seams." Then she whispered, "It's not a doll, not just a doll. Mama put it there. She said to run and never let them take it." Cade swallowed hard, realizing the secret Kincaid hunted wasn't cloth and stuffing, but something far more dangerous, something that had cost Lena everything. The fire burned low, its glow casting a trembling line of light across Lena's frightened face. Cade crouched beside her, the doll between them like a third presence, heavy with meaning. He didn't touch it yet, didn't push her faster than her nerves could bear. "Lena, whatever your mama hid, I need to know before Kincaid comes back," he said softly. Lena's hands shook as she loosened the crooked stitches with slow, careful movements her mama must have taught her, threads parting one by one when the seam finally opened. Lena reached inside the doll's belly and lifted out a small oilskin pouch, no bigger than Cade's palm. She unwrapped it with trembling fingers, revealing a folded sheet of paper and a thin silver key on a cord. Cade felt his breath tighten. "Your mama give you these before you ran?" he asked. Lena nodded, her voice barely more than air. She said the key opens a box in the bank vault, and the paper tells what's inside. She said men would kill to get it. She said they already tried. Cade opened the paper, scanning the tight, hurried handwriting. His stomach lurched as the truth hit him. The paper was a sworn statement accusing a powerful cattle syndicate of orchestrating a string of ranch burnings to force families off their land. The signature at the bottom was from a witness who had been killed months earlier. This document alone could bring down half the syndicate, and Kincaid worked for them, hunting the evidence, hunting the only child who knew where it was hidden. Lena watched him with wide, anxious eyes. "Mama said, if they found me first, they'd take the doll, then take me," she whispered. Cade folded the paper carefully, sealing it back inside the pouch. "You're safe here, Lena, I promise you that," he said, though he knew the promise weighed more than any words he had spoken in a long time. Outside, the wind howled across the valley like a warning. Carrying the scent of coming trouble, Cade stoked the fire to life again, its crackle steadying his mind. He strapped on his holster, checking the chambers. "Lena, we can't wait till morning. Kincaid will bring more men who won't ride away so calm next time," he said. Lena's face drained. "Where will we go?" she asked. Cade knelt and lifted her chin gently. "To town, to the marshal, to someone who can lock this truth away where the syndicate can't burn it," he answered, even though he doubted the marshal's courage against men with deep pockets and deeper cruelty. The night pressed cold and sharp around them as Cade saddled his best horse, a sturdy bay named Flint. He wrapped Lena in his thickest coat and lifted her into the saddle. Climbing up behind her, the doll restitched quickly and cradled in her arms once more. Cade kept one hand on the reins and the other on the rifle strapped across his thigh. He knew every shortcut and ravine, but so did Kincaid, and that made every shadow a threat. They rode through the cottonwoods, branches scratching the sky like skeletal fingers. Lena leaned into him, her breaths quick and uneven. He whispered calm words to steady her, but his own pulse hammered like a drum. Halfway across the valley, the sound of horses thundered behind them. Cade turned and saw torches flaring through the darkness. Kincaid's men were coming hard and fast, cutting through the terrain with practiced cruelty. "Hold on tight," Cade muttered. Spurring Flint into a dead run, the horse responded with powerful strides, eating up the ground beneath them. Wind slashed their faces, and Lena buried her head against Cade's chest. Cade angled toward an old mining trail, narrow and dangerous but hidden. He knew Kincaid wouldn't risk riding 3 men abreast through the choke point. Flint lunged up the incline, hooves striking sparks. Cade heard shouts behind them as the riders struggled to follow. They reached the ridge, breathless and shaking. Cade held Lena steady as he looked down the other side. The town lights flickered faintly in the distance, like a cluster of fireflies. Hope glimmered there, thin but real. "Almost there, sweetheart," he whispered, but then a gunshot split the night, a bullet sparking off the rock inches from his boot. Kincaid rode into view on the ridge behind them, alone and furious, his gun still smoking. "Hand over the girl, Larimore. You ain't walking out of this valley alive," he shouted. Cade swung his rifle off his shoulder, meeting Kincaid's glare with a cold fury he hadn't felt in years. "You'll have to kill me first," he said, voice quiet but solid as bedrock. Lena clutched the doll and pressed her forehead against his back. Cade steadied his aim. The wind stilled for a single heartbeat. Then Cade fired. Kincaid's horse reared as the bullet struck the ground at its feet, sending both rider and horse tumbling down the ridge. Cade didn't wait to see if he rose. He spurred Flint downhill toward town, toward safety, toward whatever future waited for a rancher who chose to protect a child carrying the truth that could topple powerful men. And as dawn broke behind them, Cade felt Lena's small hand slip into his, trust shining where fear had lived, the long night finally giving way to something like hope.